Oh, just trying to be funny. All those comedians out of work, and I'm trying to be funny. The idea of finding peace in the midst. I think if we were to watch the news on a regular basis, we would very quickly become quite depressed. Because it feels like there's a lot going on. Feels like there's a lot of chaos and concern in the world, that there's fires and droughts and earthquakes and hurricanes and, well, need I go on? The journey to peace is one that's fully available to each and every one of us. But it only happens when we turn within. When we turn off the evening news before we go to bed, and go to bed with a grateful heart instead of one worried about the state of affairs. As we go to bed at night and look back on our day and go, wow, what did I do today that I'm proud of? What was the kindness I showed, or what was the generosity that I exhibited, or what was the thing I was afraid of that I finally stepped up and did? What is it that I'm proud of today? And what is it that I'm grateful for? What am I grateful for today? What is it that I did today or experienced today or someone showed me today that allows me to feel a sense of deep gratitude within myself? You see, as we begin to focus our attention on the things that we truly love, the things that we truly desire, all of a sudden life gets easier. When we look within rather than out here. You see, out here, everything's already been created. All of it has been manifest. And there's nothing we can do about that. What's done is done. However, how I look at it, how I choose to experience it, where I decide to take my life as a result of that, now that's up to me. And that's up to you. Where is it that I wish to go in my life? Where is it that I wish to go on this journey? You see, peace is not something that's going to happen when everybody else decides to get it together. Peace happens when I go within myself and choose in this moment to be peaceful. Not sometime, but all the time. Now, this gets quite challenging when we drive, or at least for me and a few others that I know. It can be challenging on the subway, or when the bus doesn't come, as you stand outside in the cold. You see, we can get upset about all manner of things, but all of that comes from an idea of me looking outside myself and not having my expectations met. But what if I go within? What if instead of looking at the world and wanting it to conform to my ideal, what if I go within instead and choose to respond to each and every situation from a place of love, of oneness, acceptance? What if I choose to be peaceful in the midst of chaos? Is that possible? Sure it is. Sure it is. What if each one of us decided today that we were enough, that who we are is enough, that we're created in the image and likeness of the Creator, therefore we must be perfect, whole, and complete, right? And in the mistakes that we make, or sin, which simply means to miss the mark. Anyone here ever missed the mark? Oh, okay, one of us, two of us, all the time. We miss the mark. That doesn't mean that we should be condemned forever, and we need to give up our ideal of perfection and recognize that I am perfect because I'm created in the image likeness of God, and my behavior may be less than that. But I always have the opportunity to change the behavior, to change the way I behave in any given situation. I have the opportunity to show up in a new way every day if I so choose. Is that correct? And the same for each of you, correct? Yes. So what is it that we want in this world? I hear people say, I want peace on earth. Yeah, la, la, la. And then you go out and yell and scream at the neighbor's dog, or, you yell at, your spouse, or you get ticked off on the subway, or you're, waving at people in traffic. And you know what I mean by waving. Not hello, how are you, or thank you for letting me in, but it's time for us to wake up, to begin to look at something new. We're coming into the holiday season. Everybody's getting into the love, love, love thing. Till Black Friday shows up and everybody's, stabbing each other, kicking each other over, trying to get that best bargain. Trampling on each other. I'm sorry, 'tis not the season, ever. It's time for us to take a look at how we behave, not in the quiet of our home when there's nobody around to annoy us, but rather in every moment as we interact with each other. You see, peace is something that comes from within each one of us. It is not something that comes from outside. It is choosing to react to any given situation with a sense of oneness and unity and possibility and opportunity, with a sense of curiosity and imagination that somehow something in this moment is a gift and a blessing. You see, finding peace in the midst is about turning within. It's about letting go of the past. It's about standing in this moment knowing that I have the potential to be anything that I choose to be right here and now. I have the potential to love. Do you have the potential to love? 4 of you. Excellent. See if we can expand those numbers. Do you have the potential for joy? Yes. Oh, that one got a good response. Do you have the potential to forgive? Yes. Oh, good. Because what is forgiveness really? It's about letting go of the past. It's about letting go of what was. It was about giving up judgment, criticism, and all of that other good stuff, and allowing ourselves to be in the moment in a state of love and grace, oneness, knowing that I too have made mistakes just like someone else. With a curiosity to know something new, to discover something new, but most importantly, to release the past. Just a choice. And in each moment, we have the ability to imagine a world of peace. Imagine a world of oneness. Now, the song Imagine, of course, was written quite some time ago. But the message is still clear today. That when we give up the idea of them and us, when we give up the idea of collecting stuff over sharing love and light, as we begin to release some of our expectations, we can begin to experience peace that has always been. You see, creating a peaceful world does not require some huge action. It just requires that each of us choose to be peaceful regardless of the circumstance we find ourselves in. We all have moments where things feel hard or challenging. But we can look at those moments and begin to find the blessing in it, the inner strength we may not have recognized that was available to us. We might begin to discover who we really are through the hills that we climb. We might soon discover that I have within me a little something that I didn't even know I had, and it may even move me in a direction that is brand spanking new, but so very right. You see, when we begin to look at all life as this absolute goodness, we begin to see things differently. I really liked today's reading. In the twinkling of an eye, God is right here, not out there, right here. In the twinkling of an eye, God is down there too. In the twinkling of an eye, God is there, God is here, God is all there is, and God is good. We want to remember this. We want to allow ourselves to shake our life up a little bit, begin to give up our ideas of perfection. Give up our expectation that the people around us will behave according to our standard. Give up the idea that everyone should look the same, act the same, believe the same. That doesn't even sound interesting, does it? And yet at some level, that's what we're looking for. We want people to conform to our sense of identity, our sense of purpose, our idea of what's good and wrong and right and bad. And when they don't, we get quite annoyed. But the truth is that if we would relax into a place of curiosity and imagination, we could begin to discover things about each other that would be completely uplifting and transforming, not only for them, but for us. As we begin to look at each other as divine blessings, as we begin to look in the eyes of another person and to see God there, because it is, as we begin to do that more and more, there's an opportunity. There's an opportunity for all of us to experience fulfillment and possibility. There's an opportunity for us to really be present in life and to take whatever good we have and be able to give it to another, and vice versa. You see, peace is not some mystical, magical thing that we're hoping will arrive one day. It already exists. It exists in each person that chooses to live from that consciousness. There's nothing mystical or magical about it. It already is. In the moment that I decide to be peaceful, in that moment I experience peace. And in the moment that you choose to be peaceful, in the midst of whatever's going on, don't tell me what's going on, because we all got something going on. But in the midst of what's going on, I choose to take a breath, I choose to pause, and I choose to see good or God. You see, that's available to every one of us, isn't it? In every moment. You know when you're standing in the checkout line and your card won't work? And you're not sure why, because you know there's money in the account, but the card won't work. And meanwhile, you're holding up everybody behind you because you know it's getting to be Christmas season and everybody's out shopping. And they're not happy with you. Or you're standing in line. I always pick the line that takes forever. So I picked the shortest line thinking, here, finally. And I get in line and the person in front of me has coupons from every other store imaginable. And they have all the items to match. And of course, the clerk has got to check to make sure the date on that flyer was the same and that I've been in that lineup many times. And I got to say, peace takes me a while. It takes me a moment to get there. Because really what I want to do is smack the person in front of me. And then I find out my best friend's husband does that all the time. I'm not going to shop where he does. But the thing is, we can get upset and annoyed, or we can allow ourselves to just be present with whatever experience is going on. My daughter and I were in line a few days ago, and, there was some people behind us, and the woman had her walker with a little chair, and she sat down beside us, waiting for our stuff to go through. And we had this great little conversation. She was so sweet and so lovely, and it was an opportunity that we wouldn't have had if things had moved a lot quicker. So sometimes we can miss an opportunity if we don't pay attention. We can miss an opportunity to connect with another human being if we're in such a hurry that all we can do in our head is curse out the person who's taken too long, rather than connecting maybe with the people around us. You see, we're in this together. You're not here alone. You're in this with the other 7 billion people. Like, that's a lot of people you have yet to meet. Imagine the relationships you could create, the opportunities you could experience, if in fact you were willing to connect. But we're afraid, aren't we? But if all is God and all is good, then what is it really that we're afraid of? What is it that we're afraid of? Do you know? How do you think about yourself? Do you love who you are? Do you love the way you process information? Do you love how fast or slowly you get things done? Like, do you love you? And if you love yourself completely, are you willing to experience that with another? Are you willing to look at another human being and go, wow, they're unique and special just like me? I think sometimes we look in the mirror and we don't like what we see. We look in the mirror and we wish there was things about us that were different. Younger, older, thinner, taller. Right? We got this idea in our head of what perfection is. But where did that idea come from? And what if we were to give it up? What if we were willing in this moment to begin to accept ourselves as we are, where we are, with the life we currently have, and from that place of acceptance, begin to imagine what's possible for us? Just imagine. You have the faculty of imagination. We have an awareness and understanding that whatever we focus on in our life grows and expands. And we have the faculty of imagination. Doesn't that suggest some possibilities to you? Imagine for a moment that your life is on point and on purpose, that your life is filled with passion and possibility, that your life is exciting and interesting, that your life is powerful and creative, that your life is filled with love and respect and kindness and generosity. Imagine knowing that what you focus on grows and expands. Imagine what it is you could be focusing on rather than all the worry, doubt, and fear that you've been imagining thus far. Could we change what we imagine? Because sometimes we imagine the worst possible scenario. And why do we do that? I mean, think about it. Does that seem like a waste of our innate power? You know, if we've got this incredible power within us and we're using it to worry about things that probably will never come to pass, is that not a waste of energy? So what could we be doing instead? What is it that you could do instead? With all that free time you have, where your mind is running around blaming Jane for whatever it was she said to you 3 months ago or 15 years ago or 30 years ago that you have yet to release. What is it that you're holding on to that prevents you from living fully? What idea do you have in mind that is keeping you stuck in a place of discomfort, despair? What is it that it's time for you to let go of that you might move into a greater possibility for life and living? I mean, think about it. Imagination. Imagination is absolutely unlimited, isn't it? Well, except it is limited by my own consciousness and by your own consciousness. I remember hearing one of my teachers talk about being in a class for golfers, and the pro that was leading it said, I want you to imagine the perfect hole. Okay, so imagine anybody here who golfs, you can imagine this. Now, this is just imagination, and yet only one person in the class imagined a hole in one. Everybody else imagined getting par, maybe one over or one under, but only one person in the class imagined a hole in one. I mean, come on. What is it that you could be imagining that you're not imagining? In what ways are you holding back what it is you can dream about because you think your dreams should be sensible, reasonable, or somehow, within the realm of more possibility that you can accept in the moment? Whatever happened to just dreaming big? When we were little kids, we did. We had huge dreams when we were little kids. I remember being out in a field, and me and my friends were wandering around, wondering where the aliens had landed, looking behind rocks for clues. It's a big empty field. I don't know what we thought we were going to find, but it was fun. It was fun, right? Because we were imagining something that at the time seemed impossible, but the moon landing had just happened. So it was like this whole realm had been opened up to us that made us sort of go, wow, we could be detectives, finding clues. It was great fun. In an empty field. There weren't even trees in this field. It really was just an empty field. But for us, it was a playground of infinite possibility. Your life is a playground of infinite possibility. Can you open up your mind enough to accept that that might be true? That the idea of peace on earth is not so far-flung. It's actually something that could happen if I could only find peace within myself more often than not. If I could choose in each moment to remember. You see, that's why we have to come to church every week, Monday, Sunday, and Wednesday, because we need that reminder, right? We need to be reminded often. Wait a minute, Christ within. And as we're coming into the holiday season, let's not choose to love for this season. Let's not choose to be half present for this season. Let us choose to take this season year round. Let us choose to be available to other people all the time. Let us choose to look at the areas where we restrict ourselves or conform to something that doesn't feel right. Let us just take the moment to imagine a world that is fun and interesting, creative, diverse. I attended the Parliament of World Religions, and it was fascinating. 7,500 people here in Toronto exploring the idea of oneness. Wow. And hearing that from Sikhs and Muslims, hearing it from Christians and Jews, oneness. That's what we've been teaching all along, isn't it? Oneness. But if we're going to teach it, if we're going to talk it, if we're going to put that out there, maybe it would be a good idea for us to start living it. In each moment, to remind ourselves, I am one with the person in front of me. Now, I know some days are easier than others. I was in Calgary last week and got to spend time with a sister and a few other family members. And yes, peace. I managed to do it too. I managed to listen, not completely without judgment, but to listen and to choose to respond differently than I might have in the past. To sit back and hopefully say something that might open minds that are closed. But they're going to do what they're going to do, and I'm going to do what I'm going to do, so I can choose to be the light in a situation that appears dark and limited. I can choose to be the light, the voice of reason in any given situation, and so can you. We can take Verity outside these doors and into the neighborhood and into our city. We can choose to practice oneness, not some of the time, but all of the time. We can choose to practice oneness wherever we go. We can choose to look at people around us as a gift and a blessing that are bringing us some remarkable gift, and to acknowledge that in each moment. We can begin to see the irritation that comes under our skin sometimes and go, let me sit with that. What is it telling me about me? What is that irritation showing me? What is it about me right now that is ready to be healed and transformed? What is it about me that's willing to love and to laugh and to celebrate and rejoice? What is it about me It's far more powerful to go within. It's far more powerful to look at my responsibility for my emotions rather than blame someone else for the way I feel. You see, peace happens when I become peaceful with me, when I begin to see my life in a new way, as I begin to look at the possibility that everyone in front of me is bringing me a gift of awareness. What is that awareness that they're bringing to me today? What is that awareness that they're showing me? And if I can let go of the past, if I can stand in this moment, if I can awaken myself to a greater sense of possibility, what might be there for me in my life? So each one of us has an opportunity to be peaceful, not sometime, but right now. To be peaceful regardless of things going on around you that you don't necessarily like. We live in a very diverse city. There's going to be stuff around us we don't understand. Stuff around us that we don't like very much. But what if we were to look at it from a new lens, from a new perspective? What if we were to look at it and ask ourselves, what is it that this brings into my life, and what can I offer to it? I sometimes hear people talking about how awful work is. You know, their workplace is miserable, their boss is nasty, their coworkers are evil. It happens sometimes. It's like going to work is the worst possible thing on earth for some people, and my heart breaks for them because it's like you spend a lot of time there. You should learn to like it. But if we can begin to go into our workplace and decide that rather than succumbing to the darkness, I'm going to bring the light, we begin to transform the place that we work at in ways that can be very surprising. The key is to show up as love, to look at every situation from a loving perspective, to begin to see people with love. I had a client years ago who was complaining about her boss, and I said, what I want you to do is just every time his name comes to mind, I want you to just think of how beautiful and remarkable this human being is and how much you love and appreciate all that he brings. After she got over her choking fit, no, just kidding. She didn't like the idea, but I said, just do it for a week and see what happens. And she came back the following week and said her boss got transferred to another division in another city. And she just looked at me and shook her head. She said, I was doing what you said. I was loving him, and he left. Well, you never know how it's going to turn out. You just have to be open to possibilities, right? You never know where it's going to go or what's going to happen. The truth is that how we choose to be in the world just does change it. It changes the game. So we can be griping and complaining and miserable all the time, or we can choose to be loving, kind, and compassionate. We have a choice. And if there's an area of your life that's particularly difficult, I invite you to love it into wholeness. Love it into its own perfection. Love it into your realization of how it's serving your life in a really positive and productive way. You see, everything in our life is there by divine appointment. We have brought it there. We've put it there. Everything we've done in our life has brought us to this moment. Nobody else did it to us. We brought it. We've created our life experience, the good and the bad of it. And if we would look at all of it as good and all of it as God, we could begin to see the possibility of doing it differently, of moving forward with a sense of imagination and creativity and love and possibility. So it's up to you. In the midst of whatever's going on, can you be peaceful? Can you choose it? Can you make a decision? So there's a couple ways of making that into a habit. One is to set intentions each morning. So you get up in the morning and you set an intention. And the intention could be something as simple as, today is my best day ever. I am peaceful, loving, compassionate, and generous. Thank you. Takes what? 2 or 3 seconds to come up with something like that, and then watch what happens with your day. If you know there's something particularly challenging coming that day, you can address it directly first thing in the morning. Maybe you're going for a job interview, or maybe you're meeting someone new, or a family member you haven't seen for a while that maybe you had challenges with. Imagine in the moment, set an intention in the morning. Imagine it being a positive experience for you. See it new, see it different. Our thinking is creating our lives. Our thinking is creating our world. It's time that we begin to think in a new way. I think that's why they call this New Thought, this teaching. Think in a new way. Instead of thinking about how everything is wrong and bad in the world, begin to think about how beautiful and remarkable it is. Begin to think of what's possible for you in your life if you begin to look at it from a new perspective. Begin to allow yourself to open up to a greater vision of what's possible. Allow yourself to see life as good and very good. Begin to see the people around you as a gift and a blessing. And as you move forward, whether it's on the subway, whether it's downtown shopping somewhere, Yorkdale Mall trying to find a parking spot, I don't go there for that very reason. But whatever it is, allow yourself to take a breath, to take a moment, to slow down for just a moment so that you can be in the experience lovingly. When you hear something on the news, if you haven't already disconnected your television or your radio, but as you hear something on the news that's distressing, just know in your heart that this is an opportunity for prayer. You know, we look at California and, you know, all that's happened there. I'm with the Centers for Spiritual Living, and the church in Paradise burned down right at the beginning. These things happen. The world is changing and morphing and doing whatever it does, but we have an opportunity to begin to see possibility, to see new life wherever some has been lost, to begin to notice that something new can happen. And it's about us taking responsibility for our reaction to it. So when we look at something happening in the news, we have an opportunity to, you know, jump in the pit and go, oh, this is so bad, this is so terrible, this is so awful. Or we can relax into the moment of the Christ consciousness and allow ourselves to be present in love, to lovingly embrace the situation, to lovingly embrace every person who is going through a challenge at that time because of that experience, to allow ourselves to fully love, to bring the presence and power of God into the moment, into the awareness, the understanding of a divinity that we cannot yet understand from our finite perspective, but allow us to love, to be in a state of grace and goodness regardless of circumstance, to allow peacefulness to engulf every aspect of our thinking that we might bring a higher possibility to the world at hand. As long as I see the world broken, so it will be for me. As long as I see people broken, flawed, so it will be for me. But in the moment that I see all of creation as good, as everything evolving from the one into something beyond my imagination, as I begin to expand my creativity, my imagination, allow myself to begin to see what's possible, as I begin to love, regardless of circumstance, I find peace. I find peace right in the midst of me. I find peace at the core of me. Because it was always there. It was always there. And imagine for a moment that everybody, for just a moment, took a breath and put a smile on their lips and said, for this moment, I choose peace. For this moment, I choose love. For this moment, I choose to see everything as good. Imagine. Imagine. And so it is.
Take the shackles off my feet so I can dance. I just wanna praise you. I just wanna praise you. You broke the chains, now I can lift my hands. And I'm gonna praise you. I'm gonna praise you. In the corners of my mind, I just can't seem to find the reason to believe that I can break free. Cause you see, I have been down for so long, feel like all hope was gone. But as I lift my hands, I understand that I should praise him through my circumstance. Shackles off my feet so I can dance. I just wanna praise you. I just wanna praise you. You broke the chains, now I can lift my hands. And I'm gonna praise you. I'm gonna praise you. Everything that could go wrong, always wrong at one time. So much pressure fell on me, I thought I was gonna lose my mind. But now I know you wanna see if I will hold on through these trials. But I need you to lift this load, cause I can't take it no more. Take the shackles off my feet so I can dance. I just wanna praise you. I just wanna praise you. You broke the chains, now I can lift my hands. And I'm gonna praise you. I'm gonna praise you. Been through the fire and the rain, bound in every kind of way. But God has broken every chain, so let me go right now. Take shackles off my feet so I can dance. I just wanna praise you. I just wanna praise you. You broke the chains, now I can lift my hands. And I'm gonna praise you. I'm gonna praise you. Take the shackles off my feet so I can dance. I just wanna praise you. I just wanna praise you. You broke the chains, now I can lift my hands. And I'm gonna praise you. I'm gonna praise you. Take the shackles off my feet so I can dance. I just wanna praise you. I just wanna praise you. You broke the chains, now I can